Well, good evening. This is a continuation of the Town of Hempstead Public Board hearings on assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Water Beach Reclamation District for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2021, and the preliminary budget of the Town of Hempstead of fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2021, which began earlier today at 2:30. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
Councilman Blake, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise if you're able and join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Because of the governor's executive orders and also because of the COVID-19 pandemic, today's two public hearings will allow for both in-person participation as well as telephonic participation using GoToWebinar. The instructions for telephonic participation using GoToWebinar as well as the pertinent documents regarding today's public hearings are available on the town's website. Today's public hearing began at 2:30 and we continued to 7 p.m. this evening. Because the public hearings were continued to 7 p.m., participants who spoke at 2:30 will not be able to again speak at the 7 p.m. hearing. Every participant will be given one chance to speak for up to 3 minutes in accordance with the town board rules. After the clerk calls each public hearing, the public who are at town hall will first make their comments, and then our participants on the GoToWebinar will be allowed to comment. All participants in the GoToWebinar must click the Raise Your Hand button at the GoToWebinar as explained in the instructions on the town's website. If you do not click the Raise Your Hand button, then you will not be called upon. All participants in the GoToWebinar must be muted during the moderator calls your name to speak. You must pay attention for your name and begin speaking when your name is called, or the moderator will go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please pay attention for your name. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar and watching the live stream, then you must mute the live stream when it is your turn to speak, or you will not be understood. When you are done speaking, your time is up, the moderator will again mute you on the GoToWebinar. Please note that anyone using profanity or straying completely off topic will be immediately dropped from the meeting by our moderator. Madam Clerk, please recall the first public hearing.
We have the proposed assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021.
For the sake of clarity in our records, I'm going to ask the board to revote Councilman Blakeman's motion from this afternoon to update the proposed assessment roll. Councilman Blakeman, would you please make your motion again?
Supervisor, I move to update the assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District in accord with the information provided by the Nassau County Assessor.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, is there anyone here that wishes to be heard on the proposed assessment roll to the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District? Okay. Right now I'm going to go over to our moderator and ask him if there's anybody in the GoToWebinar that wants to be heard on the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District by raising their hand. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no one clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on the proposed assessment roll to the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District? If not, may I have a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, I move the assessment roll is amended for the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2020 be adopted.
Second.
And just to clarify, Councilman Blakeman, you said 2021?
Yes, as amended.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the second public hearing.
We have the preliminary budget of the town of Hempstead for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021.
Great. Before any comments are heard, Mr. Kovic, do you wish to address the town board?
Yes, Supervisor and members of the board, I recommend that the board amend the preliminary budget of the town of Hempstead insofar as to reflect the updated assessment roll of the Greater Atlantic Beach Water Reclamation District as indicated in the filing with the town clerk on October 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Kovic. Does any member of the board wish to amend the preliminary budget of the town of Hempstead as described by Mr. Kovic?
Supervisor, I move to amend the preliminary budget as described by Mr. Kovic.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay, now I'm going to see if there are some members here at Town Hall which to be heard on the preliminary budget as amended. We're going to start with Ms. Merida. Oh, right to the back microphone, please. Thank you. State your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Ada Maraday, Baldwin resident. With regard to the budget, unfortunately, I'm still trying to go through it to get an idea of where we're actually heading in terms of addressing the ongoing lack of services for the diverse populations. We're still looking to see what the change was as it pertained to veteran services, but it's not like it's prominent. And unfortunately, due to COVID, it's sad that we're not able to do the usual token activities, parades, breakfasts, and things of that nature for our veterans and their families who continue to struggle and are struggling more so with regard to this onslaught. Had some questions about why the cuts in the compliance department, considering this was one of those initiatives that was touted by this administration as far as addressing the issues of the lack of diversity and inclusion. And now all of a sudden, it goes from, having at least 2 full-time and part-time, you've got 1 full-time and part-time, and I still haven't seen any report reflecting the activities or actions that are addressing the egregious lack of diversity, equity, accountability, and transparency, as well as hiring and recruiting practices, and unfortunately, federal mandates that are stripping away any protections that are addressing implicit biases just seem to wreak havoc, and there is no resolve right here in the local arena. But personnel services goes from $87,000 to $160,000. Office of Tourism goes from $320,000 to $343,000. But we have an increase in our senior population. Unfortunately, senior enrichment goes from a requested $4 million to a presented $3.8 million. So I guess they're just going to have to figure it out the best way they can. That just, again, just reemphasizes the point that we are not addressing the specific issues that are impacting those of us who are struggling here and trying to remain here. And last, certainly not least, conservation. When climate change is such an important issue and we have a problem with our preservation of our wildlife, our trees, just our quality of life that made this county, made this township, made this area so amenable to so many people, you have extensive cuts in your conservation with no justification. So I'm curious as to what the mindset is. And I would like to say, Councilman Carini, it's nice to see you, but it would be even nicer if you could respond to the letters that have been sent to you from people in your district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merida. Next, we have Stuart Kroll. Give a chance. Anybody who's going to speak, allow our co-workers to just wipe down the microphone area before you come up to the podium. Your name and address for the record, please.
Stu Kroll, Great Neck. The proposed...
Do you live on a street, sir?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you have a street address?
Gilchrist Road.
Thank you.
The proposed shelter budget of $5.5 million is roughly the same as that of 2020. We have shipped off many cats to Good Shepherd Sanctuary in Maryland, some of them adoptable cats being sent to a feral cat sanctuary. Other cats have been sent to Massachusetts. Apparently, the cats sent to Good Shepherd at $350 a cat were paid for through Tales for Hope Fund. According to numerous audits, these funds should have been segregated and a 501c3 formed. There are way fewer cats at the shelter than a year ago. Therefore, the food expense must be much lower. Vetting expenses would necessarily be lower as well. The shelter has been closed while everything else has been open for quite some time. For instance, the ASPCA has been fixing cats for months. In the amended budget, part-time salaries are way up, I believe to $590,000. I don't expect any answers, but I'll ask the questions anyway. Is that because of Christy Fonte's salary? Am I correct in assuming that she is budgeted into the 2021 forecast at $55 per hour? Also, I'd like to know how many hours a week that she's working on average. Overtime expenses are also up. Is that because no volunteers are allowed into the shelter? Full-time salaries are slated to rise to $3.3 million from $2.8 million. For what possible reason are salaries going up by $500,000? I am particularly interested in a $100,000 line item for legal expenses. What is this money being used for? Have the cats put their paws into the escrow cookie jar? We budgeted $7,500 for advertising and promotion of animals. At least that's more than the $5,500 allocated for clothing. A large but unknown number of animals are being shipped elsewhere. Incidentally, how many cats and dogs are currently residing at the shelter? There is approximately a $1.5 million difference between the proposed salary and expenses and the $5.5 million budget. The shelter has been closed to the public for 7 months. There are far fewer animals and related expenses from them. Therefore, I imagine there's a large surplus available to benefit the animals. Why was it necessary, therefore, though legally questionable, to utilize the Tales for Hope Fund to ship these animals off? Incidentally, while the shelter remains closed for safety reasons, why is it that everything else has been reopened to various degrees? Perhaps someone can tell me the extent of the surplus at the shelter. Here's an important question. Has any of this surplus been removed and transferred to a different account elsewhere? If there is no surplus, I'd like to know what happened to the money. As we are now budgeting more money, why don't we send some money to Ulster County Canines? They took in many of our dogs that we wouldn't take back due to heinous abuse over there. One last point, which I almost forgot. You stated previously that keeping the shelter closed and moving the TNR program was due to an issue of safety. Therefore, I'd like to know why a photograph was taken in front of Borelli's with 10 people from the board here, nobody wearing a mask and nobody social distancing. This excuse is about as phony as a $3 bill. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Diane Madden?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Regarding the animal shelter
Do
budget.
you have a street and community address?
Excuse me?
Where do you live? What street?
I'll text it to you later. I'd prefer not to give my address here. I've had threats, so I prefer not.
Okay, thank you.
The animal shelter budget, I see that the veterinary cost was slashed. It appears that there's only now one vet. Is that the case? Is Dr. Singh there?
Yes. The only thing that was taken out was a request for an additional veterinary, and that was not placed in the proposed budget.
So there's just one veterinary now on staff. They took an entire veterinary salary out of the animal shelter. Is that correct?
It was a vacancy.
I thought Dr. Singh was still there.
It is. He's still there.
But there's just one salary showing. So there's Dr. Singh and Dr. Siegel, correct?
Dr. Siegel is not on staff.
Okay, thank you. The animal shelter enrichment specialist, that's a new name. It looks like there's blank on the preliminary budget for 2021.
I'm sorry, where are you?
Animal shelter enrichment specialist. It used to be behaviorist. That was a very, very important position.
Now we have 46 budgeted positions, and there are 7 vacancies, and they're all TOSNA vacancies.
What is this position? Is this a vacant position?
Which one is it, Mike? Page 88. Hold on.
Sorry, can you repeat the title again?
They asked if you could repeat the title again you're looking for?
Animal shelter enrichment specialist.
That's not in the budget. That was a request made by the department, but it did not go into the tentative budget.
I'm so sorry. Can you just speak louder into the microphone? I didn't hear.
That was a request of the department, but it was not a title that was in the tentative budget or the prelim.
Okay, that was a civil service position. I assumed that was still there. Does this budget include all the veterinary contracts that were signed recently and also with Central Vet? Because excuse me?
Yes, it does.
So where would I find that number?
In the health line, 4,900.
Could you repeat that?
The account number is 4900.
Okay, and as far as just reflecting back on the first meeting, there was something said about an audit that wasn't done because of COVID. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I learned about it. North Hempstead, the town of North Hempstead, apparently completed their comprehensive annual financial budget, signed July 13th of this year. So I'm not quite sure what happened in Hempstead, but it was successfully done in North Hempstead. Just regarding the postage, it's just outrageous, Supervisor Clavin, knowing what you campaigned on. And I'm going to propose to you once again to give the public the option to opt out of these mailers and pick and choose which mailers they would like to receive. It's just everything against the environment, everything against what you campaigned on, taxpayers first. Taxpayers don't want to pay for these mailers in the excessive amount you've been sending them. As far as the overall budget, I'm just amazed because it's gone up 29%. It looks like the compliance officer department, General Services Administration, 29%. By the way, the animal shelter was supposed to be taken out of General Services, and maybe we wouldn't have 4 lawsuits and be paying for a lawsuit to stop an operational audit. There's another insurance up 82%, and Highway Department 20%. Can anyone please explain
Thank you, Ms. Madden.
the amount, this percentage of these increases?
Thank you so much, Ms. Madden. Always thank you. Kelly Shewart?
I thought this was a budget
Thank you,
meeting
Ms.
that
Madden.
the town would respond, not just a question for me.
Ms.
But the
Madden,
board should
Ms.
be
Madden,
able to
please be
respond.
respectful of the rules. Thank you so much. Let them wipe down so Ms. Shewart can speak. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Supervisor, but I'd appreciate
Thank you.
getting my questions
Thank
answered.
you.
Maybe he'll do it when she texts her address. He'll text back to her.
Ms. Shewart, good evening. Can you have your name and address for the record?
Kelly Shewart, Sherman Ave, Merrick, New York.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Clavin, I was wondering, 18 years is your service with the town?
Do you have a budgetary question, ma'am?
I do, but I have
Okay.
just a question.
Okay.
But as receiver of taxes, my question related to the budget is obviously the shelter. And I have to say, I just want to read something that I wrote real quick, is Brady, Checkers, Chrome, Bam Bam, Daisy, Maisie, Taxi, Pants, Smudge, Nugget, Oatmeal, Spud, Storm, Mama and her 4 babies, Zumba and her 4 babies, Munchkin, Georgie, and a million other kittens that I've had since last summer that I fostered, that the town of Hempstead then took and adopted out. This year, 0. So I'm upset that the TNR program, the budget, doesn't reflect how that is going to be resumed. And you've been in here with the town for 18 years, and going back to, I believe, with Kate Murray being the supervisor, that you must see the success she had. She had a long tenure, that this is, the previous 2 supervisors were one and done based on their actions with the shelter. I want to say it's primarily that, but it's a strong community, and we're deeply affected by not having access to the services that they provided. And I can't get over how disrespectful it feels to stand here and be upset about something and not even have acknowledgement.
Do you have a question on the budget?
I do.
Okay.
Is TNR going to be resumed? Is that included in?
Well, TNR is happening right now.
Through the shelter?
Well, at the appropriate time when the doctor does so, but we're talking on the budget today. Do you have any questions regarding the budget?
Yes, in the sense that, was it only budgeted through Central Vet? Spay and neuter, is it only budgeted through Central Vet?
That's a story. Do you have any questions on the physical budget we're voting on tonight? Because that's what the
Yes,
meeting is about
the
tonight.
budget is increased, but yet the primary service that people use, the spay and neuter, is that, what part of the spay and neuter services are in that budget? I don't have access to it, I'm sorry, I didn't look it up.
Fees and services.
Yeah.
It's the account called Health 4900.
And that's just through Central Vet, correct?
It's for everything. It's on-call vets. It's $465,000.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Next I have Nicole Viminetti.
Hi.
Your name and address for the record, please?
Nicole Vivinetti, 222 Meacham Avenue in Elmont.
Thank you.
I just have a couple things, very simple. A question about where is the money for the on-site TNR program? And who is the council person in Elmont? I would like to know. And how can I be helped with all the stray cats that are running around my neighborhood? And recently, I feed about 5 of them as of now out of my pocket, stray cats, and they're getting pregnant. I recently had a cat have a litter of kittens in my backyard, and half of them were mauled by raccoons, and I was able to save one of her babies recently that was sickly and on its deathbed. So when can I get an answer today on when is this TNR program going to be reinstated?
The TNR program is taking place right now, and like I said, tonight's really about the budget. Do you have any budget questions?
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council person in Elmont, by the way.
I think you have.
Ma'am, Councilman Muscarella and I are proud to share the community of Elmont. It sounds from your address that you're in Councilman Muscarella's district.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Charles Rook. Your name and address for the record, please.
Charles Rook, Bay Street, Belmore. Okay, it's a little convoluted, but I'm wondering on resources, on the budget, on how Town of Hempstead reimburses Nassau County Police Department. And the question goes to, I recently had a neighbor shoot out my door, Patrick Clavin, and 2 officers came to my house and told me Patrick wanted to make an offer. Not once, but twice. That's real intimidation. So I want to know who is reimbursing those cops to work as a concierge for the Clavin family.
Is your question regarding...
That's the budget. That's the budget. Who's paying for that? Who's paying for police officers to show up at my house to make an offer for Clavin
You could explain to him...
for my window to be shot out?
The Nassau County Police?
Yeah, who's paying for that? Is the town of Hempstead paying for that?
No.
Is that part of the concierge service for the Clavins?
The police,
I just want to know. It's
police-
like, how does that work? I get harassed and then I have to pay for my harassment?
the police department is a county function, and it's in your county tax bill.
So the town of Hempstead doesn't have to pay for that?
We are not responsible, we are not charged with police function in Nassau County. That is a county function. County raises the taxes for it, and you pay for it in your county tax bill.
And the town of Hempstead has nothing to do with Patrick Clavin.
We have nothing to do
police.
with the Nassau County Police Department. That issue should be taken up with the county executive.
Well, I did. And then it was taken up with the commissioner of police. So I want to know, Mr. Clavin, is your relative going to pay for my door?
Mr. McKenna, do you have any other questions regarding the budget?
Well, obviously, you never answer anyway. I started seeing you on May of 2019. I was at your office with your harassment of your relative. So no, that's it. I think everybody heard what I got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McKenna. You have a nice evening. Next, I have Kevin McKenna. Okay. Does anybody else at the pavilion wish to be heard on the budget? Okay. If not, now I'm going to go to the your meeting portion of our budget hearing, and I'm going to ask anybody to raise their hand so you can be heard. And now I will ask our moderator. Mr. Moderator, has anybody raised their hand?
Yes, we do, Supervisor. The first person raised their hand, Marvin Amazon. Marvin Amazon, you're live. Please go ahead with your comments.
If you could give your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is actually Marvin Amazon from Uniondale. And I just wanted to start off by saying that this is my second meeting that I've come to, and I still have not heard of anything that the town of Hempstead has proposed to do to help with the racial tensions that are at an all-time high in the nation and the clear systematic racism that is even on Long Island. My question to you guys is, when the budget was being considered, was there any interest in setting funds aside to help support Black and minority communities? With this new budget, how does the town of Hempstead plan on helping Black and minority communities in the town of Hempstead? And is there any plan put in place to help Black-owned businesses in the town of Hempstead?
Well, John, the budget speaks for itself, and the services are provided throughout every councilmatic district here, even-handedly, and we're always amenable to any assistance we can give. In fact, I would frankly say one of our latest endeavors with the CARES funding was a huge success with a veteran-owned, minority-owned business that was very successful. So we're at any time, you're always welcome to give a call to myself or Councilwoman Gooseby, who's your councilwoman.
I've done that multiple times and still have not have any correspondence. I was also looking at the budget, and it seems that for the public safety, they requested at about 5.4, and you guys, well, they spent about 4.9 last year, and you guys increased that to about 5.2. And for the civil service, give me 1 second. It's going to take me a second to find that. This document is pretty long, but it seems that they requested about 976,000, and you guys amended about 876,000. I'm just wondering why that was that number has gone down by $100,000, and public safety has increased with everything that's going on in the nation, and especially in the town of Hempstead. Would we want to see the prices? The budget hit more for the civil service and not as much for the public safety. Since they spent less than that last year, would you want to focus more of that energy in civil service?
Mr. Supervisor, may I answer this gentleman? Thank you for that question. I am very honored to represent one of the most diverse districts in the state of New York, much less the town of Hempstead. And I can tell you that the town of Hempstead has funded testing in minority communities, specifically in my district, funding at the Five Towns Community Center, which serves a predominantly Hispanic and African American population, as well as the Valley Stream Long Island Jewish Hospital in Valley Stream, which also serves a predominantly minority community, as well as handing out PPE to any business in our town, in my district, in all the members' districts. We've given out free PPE to small businesses, and in addition to that, we have funded food pantries in my community, that would service primarily the Inwood community, as well as food pantries throughout the town, including Hempstead, West Hempstead. So we have spent a lot of money, especially in light of COVID-19, in those communities that have a diverse population.
Yes, but this is for the budget of next year. I was just wondering what is being done for next year. Is anything put in place to make sure that we can further the efforts done in these communities?
Yes, sir. We have sufficient funds in the budget to address any issues that may be lingering with respect to that.
And I'd like to tell you, sir, I don't know your name, I have not met you, but on this Saturday, from 10 to 1, we are holding a PPE drive for all the small businesses in our area. We have invited the Chamber of Commerce from Hempstead, from Uniondale, from Roosevelt, as well as from Freeport. So if you want to come, would you please come? You have a Chamber of Commerce in Uniondale. We've been working well together. I don't know if you know them, but if you could find your Chamber of Commerce, you're welcome to come here on Saturday, which is the 17th. We'll be in the parking lot here at the town of Hempstead from 10 to 1. And if you have people you have read it so that at least 20 members in the store, they take care of at least 20, you will get a PPE box. We have them already for you. We've already given out some in our area, but if you have not been included, please feel free to come. And maybe we can start a dialogue so that you can meet the other members of the chambers and get something going.
My next question is, are there certain areas that have downtown that have been funded through downtown revitalization initiative grants? I just want to know which offices are responsible for securing those grants and how it is community selected, what process.
Okay. That isn't a budgetary question, but there are a couple of different departments that deal with it. If you could follow up with the councilwoman, but one is the Department of Planning and Economic Development, and I'm sure the councilwoman would talk to you about the investment that we finally got the money from Nassau County. We'll follow up. But any other questions on the budget, sir?
Actually, just a general question, but this one is, I was wondering why wasn't this board meeting posted on any social media? I saw you guys posted about that downtown.
Would you please be quiet so we can understand? I can't hear him with your clapping. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you are, but we'd like to hear him so we'll know what we can do to try to help him.
Thank you. And I just want to know why this wasn't posted on any social media. I did see the Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant was posted a numerous amount of times today, but I did not see anything about this town hall meeting. I was just wondering how is the constituents supposed to know to come to this town hall meeting if it's not properly being.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know we do hear advertising, and that we do have to do publications pursuant to the law. So it was publicized in accordance with the law. Am I correct about that, Mr. Controller? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to jump to you before we do the last one. Is there anybody else raising their hand?
Yes, Supervisor. The next person is Valerie Lamp. Valerie, please go ahead with your comment.
Name and address for the record, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Valerie Lamp, Clocks Boulevard, Massapequa, New York, as well as St. Augustine. And for the record, we never had to give our street addresses before. You've laid precedents that did not require that. Moving on, what is the projected surplus for the animal shelter budget?
The year isn't finished, and we have no idea at this point what the exact amount is, but it is no different than any other department, that if there is a shortage, it will be covered. If there is an overage, it goes into the general fund. It is a general fund account. So it is handled the same way any other fund is handled. And this is being October. We wouldn't know that until we close our books. I'll pick up all the bills that haven't been paid as of December 31st and calculate what the budgetary variance is for each account. So at this point in time, I would not hazard a guess.
Well, at this point in time, we're 6 weeks away from the end of the year, and I would hazard a guess that you should have a significant surplus at the animal shelter because it has been essentially closed to the public since March. And additionally, you have outsourced a very lucrative contract for the TNR. So I will hazard that guess, and if there's not a surplus, then the people of the town of Hempstead should have a very big problem with that. The next question I have is, what is the budget for animal care experts that you were supposed to bring into the shelter? Have you budgeted for that?
Yes, there is that 4,900 account, which is health. And
Health.
the
Okay,
account-
but
we've mentioned it 3 times, the account number, 4,900.
it's not just health, though. We're talking about animal welfare experts to come in and pop the hood operationally like Supervisor Clavin promised to do during his campaign. Is there anything budgeted for animal welfare experts to come in and really give the overhaul that that shelter needs?
Yes, there's adequate funding, again, in account 4900, it is health, and there's another account, 4151, fees and services. So between those 2 accounts, there is ample funding for anything that the shelter management would want to do during the year.
Okay, I see my clock is running even though I'm not speaking, but I also wanted to ask, why hasn't the town established, as of today, according to the New York Department of State, a 501c3 account for the Tales of Hope Fund? This account has been cited for 10 years over multiple audits as problematic because it commingles privately donated funds with payroll taxes and pilot monies. Will you open a 501c account to comply with both the audit recommendations and common sense?
Is that a question related to the budget?
Isn't it, though? I mean, if you're...
No, it's not. Do you have any questions relating to the budget?
With payroll tax, yes, it is. Because it shouldn't be commingled. And according to the last audit, there was approximately $336,000 that were all mixed around. And if someone's donating $20 thinking they're going to pay for an Adopt Me vest for a dog, it should not go to payroll taxes. Yes, it is part of the budget. I'll move on.
No funds have been commingled. That is an old entity that was established a number of years ago. Has nothing to do with this budget. No money has been transferred into our budget from that supposed entity, and there is absolutely no commingling of anything.
When I foiled that fund, it did not provide a tax ID number, and no one can find it on the Department of State. My next question is, how much, if any, money did you put aside to hire and bring in a diversity consulting firm? What the gentleman was talking about before was not relevant to the CARES Act funds being distributed. You're just using other people's monies and making donations to all of these places. He's talking about the hostility and the systemic racism that exists, and he's talking about what are you guys doing to solve it. So Diane Madden proposed...
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lamp. Mr. Moderator, is there anybody else with their hand raised?
Yes, Supervisor. The next participant is Olena Nix. Olena Nix, please go ahead with your comment.
Hi, good evening.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Lee Road, Uniondale, New York.
Okay.
My first comment is I heard one of the council members say that resources are distributed evenly. So if those resources are distributed evenly, is there any explanation for why there is a significant and noticeable difference of the street construction between Garden City and Hempstead? And then if so, where is that budgeted in the budget to repair those streets in Hempstead?
If you're talking about the incorporated village of Hempstead, it's a separate entity that manages its own roads. You'd have to contact the mayor of Village of Hempstead, Don Ryan, or one of the trustees.
Okay. My next question is, can you give a little bit of clarity of the East Garden City Fire District and where exactly that is and which council person oversees that East Garden City area?
It's supposed to be all Uniondale. Is that what you're asking for? They've asked for that. We did work very hard to get it changed for them. They should know where it is. Do you live in Uniondale?
I do live in Uniondale, but I'm just trying to understand why in the budget it's categorized as East Garden City's fire district.
I didn't see that in there.
Well, I see it very clearly, Senior Councilwoman.
Okay.
That's a legal designation when the district was set up. That's not anything that the
That we
town
could
would
do.
be responsible for.
And we
Yeah,
are.
basically,
Yeah.
it's my understanding that that is the federal government that named that area, that is a census area established by the federal government, and that there have been numerous petitions to federal officials to change that to either Uniondale or some other name, and that is not something that we did.
Supervisor?
Okay.
Just for clarification purposes, that would be a typo in the budget. In 2015 or 16, the town board by resolution changed the name of that fire protection district from the East Garden City Fire Protection District to the Uniondale Fire Protection District.
I appreciate that clarification. I remember Councilwoman Gooseby leading the charge on making that change.
Okay. No, Congresswoman Rice is the one who carried that through the federal government. So that's what it should be. Should be Uniondale.
Okay.
Okay, and on my last question, for the budgeted amount for the Uniondale parking fields, what exactly does this budgeted amount cover?
I didn't understand what she said. What did she say?
If you could just repeat that one more time, please. Thank you.
For the budgeted amount for the Uniondale area parking fields, what exactly does this amount cover? And where are these parking fields? I believe I only know of one, and that's across the street from the library.
You have one parking field across the street from the library. That belongs to the town of Hempstead. So it means that it belongs to Uniondale. That's in Uniondale. You know where the library is, right?
That's what I said.
Yeah, right across the street from it.
I know of is across the street from the library. So
Mm-hmm.
where the
On Uniondale Avenue.
funding cover?
And as well as parks. You have parks also that are designated as Uniondale parks.
Cover, exactly.
We don't have to yell out, thank you. They're going to give an answer. Hold on for a second. John, the question is, what the funds that are being designated for the Uniondale parking area, what will be utilized for that?
Parking area or the fire district?
No, the parking lot, the parking. You said the parking lot, correct, ma'am?
Correct, the parking fields, yes.
The parking lot.
The parking, we have various parking lots throughout the town. They are serviced by the parking operating fund. And there's an allocation of expenses from the operating fund to each parking lot based upon the number of spaces in each parking lot.
For maintenance of it.
For maintenance
Right.
of the parking lot.
Okay.
That's basically.
It's really just for the maintenance of it.
Okay, can you, since this is considered, I guess I would consider this a budget question, when was the last time that the parking lot across the street from the library was maintained?
Part of a regular maintenance schedule. I'd have to defer to the highway department as far as its maintenance.
If you'd like to follow up with the highway department, they can give you the schedule of when they maintain and clean the parking field.
Or she can call the office. We'll send her a copy of it.
Or you can, Councilwoman Gooseby just volunteered to you give a call in the office and she'll get you the copy of the cleaning schedule.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there was a gentleman in the back who also wanted to speak. Mr. McKenna, Kevin McKenna? If you give your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Kevin McKenna, Syosset, New York. As we all know, the budget is funded by the residents and the taxpayers. I happen to be doing a comparison of the Town of Oyster Bay Animal Shelter's budget versus the Town of Hempstead's budget. I represent a new entity called Town of Hempstead News, as well as I have a vast readership on Town of Oyster Bay News. And my question relating to the budget, Supervisor Clavin, is that in the Town of Hempstead budget, I'd like to know how many full-time employees are in last year's budget and how many full-time are in this year's budget, as well as part-time in last year's budget, compared to part-time in this year's budget.
Yeah, the animal shelter in the 2020 budget had 47 budgeted positions. There is now 40.
Sorry, could you please, I just so you know, I have a hard of hearing problem. I wear hearing aids, and I'm unable to hear you.
The animal shelter in this year's budget has 46 employees, and in the 2020 budget, it had 47 employees. There was a vacancy, and the vacancy was taken out.
Are they all full-time?
Full-time people, yep.
Okay. I spoke with the New York State Office on Open Government, and you have an obligation under this budget right now to provide the names. You have an obligation under New York State law, at my request right now, to provide the names of all the employees that are on this budget. Per New York State law, open meetings law, you're obligated. I'm requesting for you right now to read out the names of all the people that are on this budget, in this budget for the animal shelter. That's all I have. And I'll wait for you to read the names.
Well, I'll defer to the town attorney. Is this something that we would provide right now, since it's not a normal budgetary request? Or is it something that we would provide at a later date?
First of all, it's out of order for a budget hearing, but if you want to submit a FOIL request, we will process it under the public officers law and get back to you with all information to which you're entitled.
Thank you, Mr. Covitt.
I appreciate that response. I just would like to go on the record that New York State has specifically in writing told me that a FOIL request should not be required, that you have a legal obligation right now to provide the names of all the people on this budget. If you choose not to do that, that's up to you. You're violating New York State law if you do not provide the names of the people in this budget. And if you do not provide the names, as per New York State law, I will pursue the legal remedies in order for you to provide the names as I've just requested.
Well, I believe we did say we will provide the names. If you fill out the FOIL request, this is our procedure. If you disagree with it, that's fine. You will get the names. We will provide the names at a later date.
Okay, and lastly, regarding to this budget, Supervisor Clavin, I have to say that
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
you are the most
Town of Hempstead.
disrespectful supervisor I've ever seen in New York
Mr.
State.
We are going to now ask our moderator if there's anybody else with their hand raised.
Yes, Supervisor. One participant, Claudia Barecki. Claudia Barecki, please go ahead with your comment.
If you give me name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Claudia Barecki at 28 Washington Drive, Merrick,
Thank you.
with Long Island Clean Air, Water, and Soil. You're only accepting hearing questions tonight, is that correct?
The only questions we have tonight are related to the budget only, Ms. Barecki.
All right, about the budget only. Okay, so I understand in August you had contracted for a feasibility study to Walden Environmental Engineering, and I understand that the impact of that would affect the budget. So I'm wondering if you are anticipating the acquiring the New York, the Hempstead portion of New York American Water in the upcoming year, and if so, you intend to meet the October 15 deadline to tell them of your intentions.
Do you have a direct question? Because there's nothing like that in the budget. Do you have a direct question on the budget?
Is there anything in the budget about acquiring New York American Water, and if not, why?
I don't, John, I don't think there's anything in the budget requiring it.
We have absolutely no decision by the board to advance any purchase at this current time. The RFP that was put out is to gather information, and at this point in time, we haven't done the legwork in examining the results of the RFP. And there's nothing in the budget. It would be a capital outlay, a significant capital outlay, which would be subject to a public hearing. And that is not in the purview of this budget.
Okay, you do understand that you have until October 15, 2 days, to file with the Public Service Commission intention to acquire.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on the budget, though?
I guess I'm not getting an answer on that. You're not. Do you plan on submitting?
Mrs. Barecki, you can follow up with a phone call, but this one's just really just on the budget only tonight.
Well, there is no other time. You're on a very short deadline to supply and file your intentions with the Public Service Commission. 2 days. 2 days. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there anybody else on the go-to meeting?
Supervisor, no other participant has clicked raise their hand on this public hearing.
Okay. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on the preliminary budget as amended? If not, may I have a motion?
I move the budget.
Second.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
I just want to say thank you to John Mastromarino, his entire team in the Controller's Office. I want to thank my colleagues for putting together this tax-freeze budget this year with putting, not cutting services, doing a great job. I want to thank all of the board for working together. I think it's great. But, John, I do want to give a special shout-out to you. You work tirelessly. You do a great job with you and your team. We're very, very fortunate. And I am delighted. I am happy. I am proud to vote for this tax-freeze budget this year.
Councilman Blakeman.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I just want to congratulate you and the controller, our staff here in the town of Hempstead, all of our workers, from those who work here at Town Hall to those who work in sanitation and parks and all over the town for the great job they did this year, especially under extremely difficult circumstances. And I am proud that we are not raising taxes. It would be an easy excuse to do it this year, but knowing that there are so many people that are in financial distress, some people who have had nervous breakdowns or on the brink of really terrible emotional stress brought on by COVID-19, it is really my honor to join my colleagues and vote aye on this no raising tax budget.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
I echo the sentiments of my colleagues and proudly vote aye on this tax freeze budget.
Councilman Dunn.
I too am delighted, happy, and proud to vote for this tax freeze budget. Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
I am very, very proud to be able to vote on a budget that's not laying off any of our employees and is tax-free. And I certainly want to thank all of those who have worked so hard to help us, especially, I have to always say, the graveyard has been a terrible place for people to work this year. It has been extremely hard for our staff. And some of them, the people they had to bury were their relatives, and mostly people that they knew. So I am very, very pleased to say that they're all going to maintain their jobs. And we have been able, we have started to, as far as people saying racism, I don't like racism, and everybody knows that. So we are moving some people up to where they should be moved. And I think I'm very pleased about that because I don't know of any other municipality that is doing that. So I'm grateful for this wonderful budget.
And Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
I vote yes.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
Have we moved?
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Thank you all, and please get home safely.